My name is Ron Jones, and we've been full-timing for 11 years now and making major RV trips in many places. And one of the places we thoroughly wanted to go and then thoroughly enjoyed it after we went was Newfoundland. And in Newfoundland, it's rather difficult to get to, strangely enough. But it's absolutely the best way to see the country is by RV. The reason it's difficult to get to is the ferry. You have to take a ferry up and back. And there's only two, what they call a short ferry and a long ferry. But the long ferry is 15 hours of traveling. The short ferry is shorter than that, but it's the most efficient way to do it and see Newfoundland. Newfoundland's quite a large island. It's about 500 miles on the direct drive from port to port. But we actually drove about 1,300 miles on the island trying to see it all. Now you go to Newfoundland, we went to Newfoundland for one main reason, and that was to see the Viking area. The Vikings landed there. They've got absolute proof that they were there 500 years before Columbus hit North America. But traveling over and around in Newfoundland is not hard. The highways are mostly 2-lane, very, very few 4-lane. Some of the lesser roads are pretty rough, but just slow down and you're fine. If there's a downside to Newfoundland, it's probably the fact that they have a process there called gravel pit camping. And gravel pit camping is what we call boondocking, but it's boondocking there on what they call crown lands. That is lands owned by the government. So the equivalent here in the U.S. would be the BLM lands, the Bureau of Land Management lands. Well, I wanted to try gravel pit camping, but and any place there's crown lands, you're perfectly legal and appropriate just to pull off and stay as long as you want. Well, we were going to do that, but I've got a big motorhome, and frankly, the places I saw to pull off, I didn't trust. I thought, well, possibly we'll sink or we'll be on soft gravel or something. So I did not try that. So we managed to boondock at a few places, visitor centers and so forth. But for the most part, I really believe it's a campground. Getting a campground is the best way to go and ensure you have a place to stay. They're in appropriate places, and that seems like a strange thing to say, but they're not like they are here. When I say appropriate places, they're sort of at logical destinations. So if you go to, for example, Twillinggate's on the north coast. It has the history of having the most icebergs of any place in the world gather in its bay. But there's campgrounds around Twillinggate, but there's not on the way to Twillinggate.
And what's the best time to go? What time of the year?
Oh, you must go in the summer. I mean, it's a summer trip. Absolutely, you need to allocate at least a month, and I recommend 6 weeks on the island. And it takes a while to get there because you only get the ferry off the north side of Nova Scotia. So you have to get there first.
And the cost, would it be comparable to being in Canada for gas and supplies and so forth?
Exactly, it is Canada, and therefore all the Canadian rules apply, costs apply. You're traveling on the metric system with kilometers per hour, and buying the fuel in liters. And but it's perfectly doable and easy, and everybody drives on the right side of the road, and the signs are in English, so there's not a problem with that. Scenery's gorgeous. They call the island a rock. They affectionately refer to it as the Rock, but it's just a giant granite island, all rock, but over eons of time, the topsoil is blown in, and now it's huge trees and grasses and woods and mountains and so forth, and it's a great place to see. One of the unusual features, it has the highest concentration of moose in the world. They thrive there, and you quite often have to, you see one about every day is what you do. But it's a great trip. I'd strongly recommend it as an RV trip. I think it would be tough to do it any other way, and I recommend everybody go.